This hits close home to me. I've had friends in the past who've gone through the horrible situation of mental health or drug abuse. And it hasn't always been drug abuse. It's been something experimental. They hung out with somebody and he brought something and a one-time deal and that was it. And I'm talking about people that had great potential, bright futures, and it didn't work out for them.
So welcome back to another episode of Steamrolled. Today I got with me, we're going a little bit into politics, so I have State Representative District 3 candidate Ziad Abdelmalik. Ziad?
So my name is Ziad Abdelmalik. Thank you for having me on the show.
Of course.
I'm a candidate for State Representative District 3, which encompasses all of East Dearborn, parts of West Dearborn, and Warrendale, Detroit.
Okay. So I guess for somebody who's not really in politics, right? Why go into politics in the first place? You know, what, it's like a whole different world to me. So let me ask you, why throw yourself into that world?
So this is something I've been doing my whole life, or the majority of my life at least. I've been trying to find ways to give back to the community the best I can. I grew up in a family where being raised, I was told to always think of others before you think of yourself. And it never really clicked in my head until I got a little older, and it really connected to me when I got my own family.
Right.
I got 3 beautiful boys, and I want to be a role model for them, and I also want to build a brighter future for them also.
Okay.
So it's deeply rooted in family, friends, and giving back to the neighborhoods.
I'll agree with you on that point of, having kids. It really does set things into perspective for you, right?
It really did. It's truly a life changer. You think you know everything until those kids come out, and it really changes everything.
Right. So I guess I'll tell you this: the more I guess I saw what's happening with my kids, whether it was school or politics or whatnot, I did start paying more attention to politics a little more, because you're right. These policies, these changes, social changes that are happening, does affect them. So there's definitely an incentive to.
Ultimately, it does, because once you have kids, and it's no longer about you anymore.
Correct.
It's all about raising them the best you can, and everything, all facets in life help shape the way they're going to grow up. It's not just you raising your kids, it's just everything, their environment also.
Exactly, 100%, right? So they say it takes a village, right?
Definitely.
So what you're saying is you got to actually take an active role in that village to make sure that village is
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, honestly, it's not my cup of tea. Politics kind of irks me. I do like to dabble a little bit, but it does irk me in a certain way, because it's I know obviously you're a politician, right? So technically, I don't want you to.
I don't consider myself a politician.
Okay, so you're not a politician.
I don't like to be classified in the subject of, or the classification of politician. I see myself more of a public servant, because again, that's what I've been doing, and I've been doing a lot of things behind the scenes, and that's how I like doing them, because I'm not doing it for the recognition or the fame. I see people in distress or having issues, whatever the case may be, whether it be small or whether it be big, I'm there for them, and that's how I like doing it. I never liked the cameras.
So you wouldn't classify yourself as a politician, so you're not going to get mad at me for saying this, but that's where what irks me about politics is the politicians, right? Now, I don't know if some politicians get into the game of politics with good intentions, and then just the way politics is set up, their hands are forced to get dirty. And I guess the question I have for you is, what's going to stop you from running down the same path that probably many before you tried to get into politics, and then next thing you know, they're getting all this dirty money?
Personally, I've known some politicians who have got into politics, and in my personal opinion, I believe they were led astray. When they first started, I would say they had humble beginnings as far as their endeavor into politics. Now, what happened between the beginning and where they are now, or where they were, I'm at a loss. I'm not sure exactly what happened. It could be a very dirty world, but at the same time, it could be a very uplifting and enlightening scenario to where they can give back to their people. So what happens in between, I'm not 100% sure. But what would separate me from them is I started this whole thing, again, not having to do with me. It was never about me. It was about how much could I possibly do to uplift everybody else around me. If I'm doing good in life, I want everybody around me to be doing good in life. So it's always been about others, because once you lift everybody around you, you're going along with the ride, for the ride with them.
It's interesting. So what you're saying is having that sense of purpose greater than yourself in your own political career is what separates a good politician from a bad one.
That is definitely a guiding light right there. It's
That's
very hard to corrupt.
Because I can actually see it, like I physically see it in the sense of you get in there as a young kid or somebody who's young in politics, right? And it's all these old heads, these career politicians are there telling you, hey, this is how it's done, you know? Talk to this person, take money from this part, you know, make this happen. And you got to do this part. You got to play your role in this, you know, with this vote because you don't want to get this person mad because your career. And again, now once you're focused on how do I climb this political ladder, you're kind of stuck.
You know what? If you're looking to climb the political ladder, politics probably isn't what you're supposed to be getting into. Go climb a corporate ladder instead.
You know what? I kind of agree.
So, you know, if you're trying to make advancements in life,
Yeah.
don't do it in politics, because now you're just playing games with people's lives. So this is not a Game of Thrones where...
But again, speaking as outside of politics, the reality of it is that's not how it is. That's not how it's done.
not. It's the way it should be, but it's six.
Okay, I come out and I vote for Ziad for the primaries, right? I can count on you being that person who's going to be there voting their conscience, voting not for their political career, but for the actual constituents that voted them in.
Not just conscience. I'm going to be voting the way the district wants to vote. Again, it's not about me. It's about what the district needs, what they want, and how they want me to vote for them. Remember, once you're a representative, you're not representing yourself. You're representing an entire community.
Right.
So it's not about you. It's about them. So my guarantee is, and I know this is going to sound cliche, and it starts off with once I'm in office, and this is the truth, you know, it's sometimes it's you got to say it, you know, having a backbone is not such a bad thing. You know, you got a whole city to represent.
Right.
And you need backbone to be able to stand up for them and say no when no needs to be said. Everything has to be done in their benefit.
I agree with you on that point. I feel like going back to the politicians who get in there, right? Young people, maybe I told you, with good intentions, you do have to have that backbone because you're going to have people who come in to intimidate you, come in to show you a better way, you know what I mean? Come in to kind of either, I don't know, how do I say, not really take advantage of you or take advantage of your naivety, right? Because you're new to this world. So having a backbone and being able to stand up to people who think they know it better or think that they know what's better for you, when really they're looking for the interest of their political careers or their company, corporation, lobbyists, whatever it may be. And I feel like having that backbone to stand up to that is what makes certain politicians shine, right? Like you look at somebody like Bernie Sanders, who I don't completely agree with, right? But you do look at somebody like that who has a backbone.
You don't got to agree with them to respect them.
Exactly.
You might not agree with their viewpoints or where they're coming from, but the person and their character you can definitely agree with and
100%.
respect.
So I say it goes a long way to really do have a backbone. And it shows. It'll show. Because I think, sooner than later, you being in politics and now you're really, truly being a man of the people, you're going to start, I don't know if the word is making enemies, but you're going to start making headlines in the sense of,
sometimes
making a ruckus.
It's in the time we are in. I know it's 2024, and 5 years ago I would have said the same thing. It's 2019. It's for every time period. But if you start to do things right, you are gonna shake some things around a little bit, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because sometimes we need to shake the crumbs off the top.
Yeah, I agree with that. So let me delve a little bit into, I guess, some of the platforms you're running on. But
I did want to touch back on one thing.
Please.
I would love to see more of the younger people involved because, as you mentioned, young politicians And then you got the older politicians who have been there for a long time. I would love to
The
see
dinosaurs.
the um, this is their time. This is their generation. And what better way to serve society and uplift your friends, your neighbors, your family, your community than public service? You know, you can have a role, a career in life, but I would love to see them engaged, know what they want, know what the community needs, and give back to the community. Not necessarily run for office, but take some kind of initiative and learn about your community, learn what the shortfalls are, and be involved. Well, it can be on the smallest level. Just show up to a city council meeting.
No, I agree with that 100%. I feel like I lack in that department a little bit, but I have seen where being involved more definitely, I don't know what the word is it the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So if you're not really making any noise, if you're not really there, if you're not what's called, you're going to be overlooked. If you're there making noise, if you're there shouting, at City Hall about what's bothering you or what's affecting your community, then you get the grease.
You do definitely get the grease, but it would be nice if we can wake up in a society where we don't have to yell and scream to get the attention that we need. And with the community's civic engagement, especially the younger people, by them sitting back and assuming that everybody else is going to take care of it for them, that's not necessarily the case. That's how we end up with career politicians, 10, 20, and so many on years in
Right.
office, running things the way they would have 20 years ago. We're 20 years later, and we're still, technology has advanced strides. But as far as politics goes, we're stuck 20, 30 years ago. We
And
can't get
I
anything
feel
fixed
like
right.
as somebody who is a business owner, I love capitalism, right? Because it gives you the opportunity, right, for you to go from nothing or to go from somewhere and be able to climb, right? Definitely is a beautiful thing, but you can't kind of be asleep to the faults of capitalism, which are large corporations, right? So large corporations definitely threaten democracy. They threaten smaller communities. And if you're not involved, or if people aren't aware of what's going on and what's affecting them, these corporations will gut them and leave them dry without even blinking an eye, right? And I do see that being important. I know that's something on your platform, right? Which I read your flyer. And
Okay.
there was something there about DTE. Now, for me personally, I'm not really aware of what the issue with DTE is. I know that rates have gone up. That I felt. You know
Rates
what I
are
mean?
going.
Insane.
Rates keep going up like the temperature is going up this summer.
So
It's
so
just
what
always
is
on the rise.
so what's your, I guess, what is it that you want to do or want to see from DTE? What is it that people who vote for you can expect to see from you?
So as far as DTE goes, we can look at it from multiple angles. I want to focus on two real quick: the employees and DTE as a corporation.
Okay.
Now, you know, bless those employees in all types of weather. They're out there in the wind, in the rain, in the storms. It's a very dangerous job.
It is.
A lot of them lose their lives. A lot of them get injured. And we take a lot of this stuff for granted living in the country that we live in because we're used to having lights on 24 hours a day.
100%.
So, again, God bless these employees and nothing against them. I wish them nothing but the best and all the success in life. But when you look at it from a corporate standpoint, that's where it's kind of embarrassing that we have a company like this in a society that we have. So, last December of 23, DTE wanted to do a rate hike, and they only ended up getting 60% of the rate hike approved by the governing board. So they ended up with a $368 million price hike. And
So, real quick, just to kind of bust down something that I do remember learning a while back, is DTE is actually allowed to be a monopoly, right? So they're a regulated monopoly,
yes, they are a regulated monopoly, and that's how they
which
get
gives
their
them a lot of
status.
power, but there should be governmental oversight of their pricing.
There should be a way to have checks and balances,
Right.
and that's why they're allowed to be a regulated monopoly. But then again, the issue we have is sometimes government does drop the ball, and not necessarily intentionally as a whole governing body, but it comes down to an individual basis. So the two major parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, they don't always have to agree on everything, but there is somewhat of some checks and balances. And what ends up happening is when a corporation like DTE steps forward and proposes rate hikes, or we should have these elected officials who are defending their constituents.
Look, and I know there's a lot going on between Democrats and Republicans, but I feel like the very least, when it comes to something like that, meaning a corporation wants to feast on, the American constituents, the American public,
They would cannibalize them if they could.
I feel like that should be the one time where it's like, hey, this is time for a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Reaching out across the aisle and kind of
Compromise.
and compromising 100%.
Put a few dollars back into your constituents' pockets. It goes a long way. So what ends up happening is it'll take one or two people who would sway the vote. And this is why I brought up the both parties, and it's usually a combination of everything, and somebody will cross the party lines, but it's a few people that make the difference. So these key people are met by the lobbyists, and you'll have a few dollars put into your next campaign fund to ensure that you have a padded account to make sure you reach your constituents that you just screwed over.
And as a politician, when your most important thing is re-election, you're kind of just focused on re-election as opposed
It's
to
re-election.
Yeah.
So in a 4-year terms, it's
And these are the career politicians.
2.5 years of service and a year and a half of figuring out how to stay in office.
Right.
To whereas if you actually did what you're supposed to do, you did what you're supposed to do, and people will recognize that.
100%. I agree. So, I guess.
So
Go ahead,
back
please.
to that $368 million. This is what I meant by embarrassing. So on the surface, you look at it, well, DTE needs $368 million. So there must be a reason for it. And some customers would be like, well, we're having a lot of power outages lately, so they probably need the money to maintain the infrastructure. What happens less than 4 months later? They're asking for another $450 million. Remember, the 368 just got approved. Now we're into the new year. They're asking for $450 million in March. So now as we're entering the summertime, DTE is raising our rates again in the prime hours of 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So this is just embarrassing. Either ask for what you're going to ask for, explain in detail, not to the governing boards and not to the politicians, to the people that you're trying to tax.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, at this rate, this is all just cannibalization of their customers.
Okay.
So it's just really embarrassing for industry to be like this in 2024, especially when we have a governing body overseeing them. It's really embarrassing.
Oh, I agree. It's just, it's the reality that we live in, right? And I feel like that DTE one, especially, I'm not gonna lie to you, it hit. You felt it. You definitely did.
Everybody felt it.
That jump was from house to businesses to whatever it is that you're getting. That DTE bill went from it's paying like $180 at max for the house, jumped to like $280, $290, $300. It's like, what the heck? Like at first I thought, I didn't even know about the hikes. I thought something was being left on that shouldn't have been left on. Are we doing more? Was the AC turned on a month earlier than I expected? But
I'm willing to post my bill. This one got me the other day. So when you're in the DTE app and you go to make your payment and then you click the view bill button, you got a little section where it shows what you're paying this month, what you paid last month, and then what you paid 1 year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the prices between this year and last year were similar. This year was a little more expensive, but I also noticed that the energy usage last year was significantly lower. So as these hikes keep happening,
Mm-hmm.
you might notice at the first bill, and now you're wondering, like you said, did I leave this on? Did I leave that on? And then as the months go on, you forget about it. And as these increases keep happening over the period of a year, you don't really feel it until you see that on their app and you go back to last year's when they put them side by side. You're
see
like,
the difference.
less usage, but I'm paying a bigger bill this year.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about not just a few kilowatt hours. I'm talking about it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And that's where you're blown away and you're starting to wonder, or not even wonder, you're just convinced, like, wow, they just duped me.
So you're saying that your job as a representative would be to hold them accountable.
Hold them accountable. There is no reason why you should have a power outage that lasts 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to where this company that's asking its customers to keep supporting them and build their infrastructure while they maintain record profits, they should be paying you back by the hour after a set amount of time.
We really don't have an alternative, right? That's what a monopoly really means, right? So
No,
technically, we're relying on the government to regulate those prices so that we're not taken advantage of.
Exactly. I want you to picture this scenario. You're a family that's struggling. We just have a...
Hold on, just real quick, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Are these lights going to go out anytime, anytime soon if we keep talking about DTE? Next time I know, just the lights cut off.
You know, it goes back to infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's infrastructure. $6 billion in gross profits this last year.
Yeah.
$6 billion in gross profits the year before. And it seems like the rate increases are in correspondence to how can we keep the gross profits the same and not lose any money on investing on the infrastructure that's outdated. So they're not willing to take a loss from the profits. They got shareholders, they got everybody else they got to answer to, but their constituents. They refuse to answer to their constituents.
I mean, it's messy, right? And if you do win, you got a lot of work on your hands, you know?
Definitely.
Hope you're ready.
And it's a team effort. You know, one person in Lansing trying to make a difference, that is one thing. If he's standing up for the community for the right reasons, you know, he's going to put up a hell of a fight for you. That's the way it should be. But what would be preferable is the whole community behind you as one voice in Lansing. I'm not saying they drive up to Lansing with you, but a united community as one voice with the same plan, that's what gets the job done.
So other than, you know, the issue with DTE, I guess what other issues do you feel like are important enough to be put on your platform?
Education is also another key component of it is a key component on our platform.
Okay. So
it is one of the key components.
So what particular part of education do you want to address or think there's an issue?
Funding.
Okay.
So as you see over the past few years, there's been controversies. There's been a lot of things going on around the educational system. Outside of the controversy, let's push all that stuff aside and let's actually focus on what's best for the students. And what's best for the students is getting funding for the districts, for the individual schools across the whole state.
Teachers, right?
And that's what I'm talking about. We're losing teachers more than I would, at a rate more than I would feel comfortable with. And there's some districts that are just completely understaffed. And then you got those students trying to cross city borders, moving, using fake addresses of friends or families, trying to get that education. And I don't blame them. They're trying to get a quality education for their kids because they're trying to have them build a future for themselves. That, you know, everybody go to school, get a career for yourself, make something of yourself, raise a family. And this shouldn't be something that we're worried about.
The staples of what it means to have an American life, right? That's why we come to this country.
We shouldn't be fighting over, wow, we don't have money for teachers. Okay. Apparently, we don't have money for teachers. We don't have money for roads. We don't have money for infrastructure. DTE is getting all the money. They keep raising the rates all the time.
Israel's getting all the money. That's the truth, right? So we don't have money for this, but hey, you know, here's a couple thousand missiles that you guys can just.
You know, I never did understand that one. We can touch back onto that one. We'll come back to that one.
But it's the truth. You know what I mean?
It's we'll come back to that here by the end.
It's a sense of having the right people in government that can, you know, redirect or hold the government accountable for how we spend our money, right? The school system has definitely been neglected.
100%. If you look at it from not a comedic standpoint, but I always look at government sometimes with a comedic sense and a sense of irony. They should be investing heavily in these kids because one day these kids are going to be the ones with careers. And the more you make, the more you get taxed. Right. So, you know, you would think, as greedy as government can be, they would invest in and try to reap what they can in the future.
And they're the future government heads, right? They're the future people who are going to be running the country and establishing, innovating, and inventing and and future businessmen and entrepreneurs and like all that through and through. You're investing into it. I think even more important than infrastructure, invest into your people.
You invest into the people, infrastructure gets built around you. Everything else gets built around you. Um, Education is not what it once used to be, and it's not generally by fault of the teachers. The teachers are left paying for things out of their own pockets in the classroom to help educate these students, to help give them a different sense of, a better sense of uh, direction and everything else that's entangled with that, because it is a giant entanglement. It's not just read out of the book. You want to be able to connect everything with that student so they get a better sense of reality and everything going on around them. So we need more funding for the schools. We need to have ways of attracting teachers to stay there. There is no incentive. There is no incentive.
Anybody who's going in to be a teacher these days really has to have passion for it, because you're right, the financial incentive is not just not there. It's actually counter incentive, right?
It's
Incentivizing you to-
counterintuitive.
Yeah. So it's kind of, you really got to be heavily passionate about it because you want to invest in the next generation. You love teaching and inspiring others for you to do it. And it's like, isn't that a very important, right? Because I feel like I always understood it, how important it was and how underpaid teachers were. And it's kind of like, I kind of heard about it. But now that I have kids in the school system, it's like, I do want the best teachers. I do want teachers that are taking their time. I've had, my kid has had bad teachers and good teachers, right? And especially the great teachers. It's like, wow, they really put more effort into my kid's education than I would sometimes. And it's like, these are superstars of teachers. And they definitely deserve to be compensated at least a living wage in terms of being comfortable. And I feel like it's an investment to our kids, an investment to...
Isn't that a sad reality? You have to use the living wage for an educator.
Right.
The term living wage. This is where we are right now.
I feel like it's a huge problem, right? And I feel like people are like, look, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? You just chip away one bite at a time, one person at a time, one politician at a time. People just come out and actually do things. I feel like now politics for me, that left a bad taste in my mouth because it's more of, what's the buzzwords to say? I'm for education. I'm for, right? So it's Ziad, in terms of, is this really something you're truly passionate about, or is this something that is just a buzzword for you to kind of throw on your flyer?
Getting into politics is like getting into teaching right now. So you really got to have a passion for it. So I don't plan on climbing the ladder throughout politics. I'm here to do a job, represent the whole district.
So you don't want to be a career politician? You don't see that for your future?
No, I don't. I already have my own career. I'm a small business owner.
Okay.
And I'm doing this because, again, this is the passion I have. I have children, and I want to build a base for them to be able to stand on. Not just my children.
I think
everybody's children. Okay, we need to build. My time has passed. Yes, I'm still young, but what I mean by my time has passed is the years before I had children was all for me.
Right.
The focus was on me. Everything was about me. I wake up in the morning. If I did something to enjoy myself, it was for me. If I went to work, it was for me. Now I have a family. Everything is for them. It's no longer about me anymore.
So your sense of purpose changed.
It completely. It gave me a stronger sense of purpose is what it did.
So, it's kind of refreshing to hear in a sense, because I feel like most politicians that I've seen, especially on a local level, you see them go up and they kind of see the candy, right? They see what real politics is. They see how enticing that power grab is. And so you want the next position. And then you got to be a good boy, in a sense, right? As in, you're good to your party, you're good to your people around you, favor sharing, trying to climb that political ladder. And now it works. It really does, right? Because people know people. Yeah, people know people, and they climb you. So you not wanting that next position, there's nothing they can give you or take away from you that can be given, except that, I guess, that, how do I say this? There's nothing they can take away from you, because what you're trying to achieve is given to you by your constituents. It's given to you by the voters. So once you're in there, if that's truly your passion, they basically can't do anything to harm you, because your constituents would have your back.
Absolutely.
To me, that's the dream politician. And if you can be that, Ziad, you have my vote every single time.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. Again, like you said, the power doesn't come from the people around you once you're in office. That's not power. That's a false sense of
It's
security
more
and
corruption.
reliability.
It really is corruption as opposed to power. Or
What real power is, is walking down the street, meeting your constituents, helping them with their issues, and seeing the smile on their face. That is what gives you the sense of power and completeness. You feel like you've accomplished something, not just for yourself, but for everybody else around you. Again, it goes back to if I'm doing good, I want you to do good around
Right.
me. And if I can help you, take me with you.
Right.
It should be
you uplift each other.
I like to use the word community because here in Dearborn, generally speaking, it's a very tight-knit community. And I
It
mean
is.
everybody. We have such a great mix of different ethnicities. And Dearborn is such a unique place. So when I use the word community, I feel like I know everybody at some kind of level to where, they might be a stranger today, but, after a 5-minute conversation, they're sitting in the home with you, breaking bread, and you just made a new lifelong friend.
Right.
With a 5-minute conversation, Detroit's a very unique place. I feel like it's different than the other
I think
city around here.
unless you've left it, you don't really notice how Dearborn, good and bad, it's its own bubble, right? We have our own little bubble. We have our own little system. We have our own little small mini politics. Everything is kind of just different in Dearborn, and you leave it, you feel it. But I love it personally. You know what I mean?
Everything's done better in Dearborn. Now.
Everything's
This is why I chose to call this place home.
Yeah.
It truly is home. I could have, with my small business, it's a business that I could have ran from anywhere in the country.
Right.
I could have moved anywhere in the country. At one point, the family was, hey, let's think about moving into a bigger house. I'm like, oh, it has to be in Dearborn. Can't be anywhere else.
Good luck
Like,
with that
this
right now. The housing market is
We're happy where we are, especially with the inflation.
right.
But it's home, man. It
is. So let me ask you this: being, having said that this is your home, and having read your flyer, I know a big issue for you is substance abuse and mental health, and that's something that's kind of quietly, kind of just spiraling through our community.
It's a plague.
And I say quietly because it's something that's kind of shunned or looked down upon. But it's a very, very serious issue. And nobody's safe when it comes to mental health, especially substance abuse. So where do you stand on what we can do to kind of help this community with that issue?
We need to be able to face the issue head on, direct. We need to break all
Stigma.
the stigma. Thank you. That's around this issue. There isn't one family that I have met, or was raised around, or have known, that wants to accept that their child, their brother, even their friend, is facing some mental health issues or drug-related issues for that. So it's hard to accept. It's a hard pill to swallow.
And I think in reality, especially in our community, it's almost looked at as a shame for the family as a whole, right? So that's why they like to keep it hush-hush. That's why they like to kind of not talk about it, because it's kind of like, oh, look at their family. Look what they did. Or look what they had. It's their fault. As opposed to, rather than saying, hey, you know what? What are all our resources? What can we do to help our child or our brother in getting them through this? You know what I mean? And that kind of limits you.
That is unfortunately
It's a limiting mindset.
That is an issue that we are facing. Aside from the fact that nobody wants to accept the fact that somebody in their family or a friend or somebody close to them is facing those kind of issues. The second portion of it is, what are people going to say about my kid? Or what are they going to say about us? We didn't raise our kid right. That should not be the first thought or second thought or third thought that crosses your mind. Keep that on the back burner. If you still got that mentality, you know what? Keep it at Z. After the final step is, my kid is safe, my friend is safe.
100%.
We put them through the steps.
100%
Worry about the stuff that doesn't need to be worried about at the very end. Don't even worry about it.
And in reality, what people are afraid of, or not afraid of, but if you do your job right, right? If you execute correctly in terms of getting them the help and helping them bounce back, they come back stronger and better.
Well,
And then now, who cares?
there is some difficulty to this. I agree with you, but there's also some difficulty to this, executing and doing things right. The issue is many people don't know what to do. You know, we've seen TV shows where uh, the term intervention, I learned from a TV show, a family intervention, sit down and
Mm.
talk. But then the family has to be willing to accept the fact that there is a problem and not, hey, you need to man up. That kind of mindset needs to disappear. And at the same time, we need to be able to educate families on the steps to take.
So you were saying in terms of mental health and basically giving the proper education and teaching families the resources that are available to them.
Okay. So, yes, that's where we left off. And again, we need to educate, enlighten, have outreach. We've been over this topic many times in the city over the last few years. And the answer we had is, hey, let's open up a clinic. Let's get some funding for mental health. And, the places are here. But nobody knows how to use them. Nobody knows how to approach these places. There is no outreach for these places. And I'm not naming specific places, but I'm saying in general, a lot of these people are there for a money grab.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's,
No, right.
it's for a money grab.
The return rate on this is as a pharmacist, hits home. You see how many people are in and out of rehabs, and you actually see the success rate of rehab is so low, especially not in all institutes. There's some good,
There are
institutes
some
out
good
there.
ones.
But
But now you're
the
talking
majority
about
of them,
affordability.
you'll see these ads being pushed out for these companies who have a horrible return rate, meaning they're really not doing anything. You're talking about 80% or whatever it was. I remember reading the last time I checked on it was that they're returning back as somebody who's relapsed. So realistically, what are they getting this funding for? What are they getting this money for? In the sense of, we do need better institutes to help with this issue.
We do. And the first step of being able to help is not just setting up a clinic or a hospital or gathering up doctors. Before the doctors get gathered up and before the doors open, it needs to be taught and there needs to be an outreach. So as important it is to get blueprints for your building, you need the blueprints on how to reach out to the community.
I really think, for me personally, the best support system for anybody going through mental health or substance abuse is the family.
Family.
See, took it right out of my mouth. But yeah, family is definitely not essential, but crucial. And a lot of people don't have that resource, and it sucks, But for the majority of people who do have the family, I feel like a lot of families end up getting frustrated with them. Or again, not knowing that it's going to be a struggle, but you got to kind of go with them. You have to be there with them. You have to support them. You have to do your part. And then they have to do their part.
It's a mix of emotions, When this hits close home to me, I've had friends in the past who've gone through the horrible situation of mental health or drug abuse. And it hasn't always been drug abuse. It's been something experimental. They hung out with somebody and he brought something and
Down the rabbit hole.
a one-time deal and that was it. And I'm talking about people that had great potential, bright futures, and it didn't work out for them. And some of them that actually have gone to these institutions and organizations, and one had actually passed while he was there from his drug abuse. Not that he was on certain drugs and withdrawals and whatnot. No, he was somehow able to score within these facilities.
Oh, wow. So he overdosed in the facility.
The facility.
That's insane.
While he was in the facility it was an extended stay. So there needs to be oversight, whether it's the government. And I don't want to say there's not going to be situations. Well, I'm hoping there's no DTE situations where somebody's putting money in your pockets and
So
they're looking the other way.
oversight, yeah.
Oversight. I think this is a subject where politicians on both sides can come to agree that this is no longer about making money. This is about
This
person's life. This is what we hope is what the reality is.
And the reality is, this epidemic doesn't care if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, if you're conservative, if you're this, if you're that.
It doesn't discriminate.
It doesn't-
One of the few
absolutely not.
things in life that does not discriminate is drugs. It doesn't discriminate.
Right.
It'll take a hold of anybody and it will not let them go.
Oh man, I think there's a lot that needs to be said and done, and I think we could have an entire podcast just on mental health and substance abuse. But I do like to see that is something that's very important to you, and that's something that you'd focus on as a candidate. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. I definitely appreciate your perspective on this, and
Thank you.
as somebody
Thank
who
you.
hates politicians, hopefully be the first one that I like. So
Hopefully. And again, probably by the end of the term, God willing that we get in, I don't think you'll be calling me a politician.
okay.
Not sure what you're going to be calling me, but it'll be something good. But it's definitely not going to be a politician.
Okay, I'll take you up on that word. So, when is voting? What kind of voting is it? What is it? Primary?
So the primary is August 6th, about 6 weeks away from now. And then we have, it's 9 days of voting. So it's the few days before the primary, you can do in-person voting at the Ford Community Performing Arts Center. Or you can vote by absentee ballot by requesting your ballot through the city clerk's office.
Okay. So August 6th is
August
the date.
6th is the date.
There you go. August 6th. Go on and vote for Ziad Abdelmalik for District 3 State Representative. And hopefully he's a man of his word. I believe it. And, we'll get you in there, inshallah. And, hopefully you don't get caught up with the tanglements of politics. And, we'll hold you accountable.
And that's what I expect. If I'm not doing my job, the first person who should tell me I'm not doing the job that I was elected to do is the people that I'm representing.
There you go. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having
And
me today.
Good luck.
Thango ahead. Hopefully I can.
That's it. So, go ahead, sorry.
I said hopefully I can visit you again soon.
So the next time you're here,
We have a lot
gonna
to talk about.
Okay.
No, I'm saying in general, like the topics we touched on.
We can definitely.
talk for the next few days.
100%. I agree.
But I appreciate you having me on here, and the time we had today. Although it's great, it's just not enough to get to the
really break it down.
to the meat and bones of it.
No, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you, and don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, all the good stuff to support the podcast. This is our 4th episode. Alhamdulillah, it's doing really well. We got more and bigger things coming, inshallah. And appreciate anybody that listened all the way through, and appreciate my guest Ziad for coming on.
Again, thank you for having me.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.